Welcome back again. You are a great learner. You want to keep adding more knowledge to your life, but more importantly, to use the knowledge I'm sharing with you. Took me, 73 years to figure this stuff out. And I certainly hope it'll take you a whole heck of a lot less, with a heck of a lot less expense than it took me to acquire this knowledge and to do these kinds of things that have created my career. So you're building a career. I'm assuming that you're more than likely my avatar, a person that I have been designed to teach, a person that seems to want to follow me, are people who are in the beginning third of their real estate career. I do have some students that are in the middle third of their career. Some people like me who are in the last third of their career. Wherever I reach you, obviously I want to be able to talk to you. But more than likely, you're in the first third. That means you're a beginner. That means some of the stuff I'm teaching you is brand new. You've never thought of it before. You have probably been trained in the university setting or maybe a public school setting where, what do they teach you? They're going to teach you reading, writing, arithmetic, but do they teach you how to create wealth? No, they don't. Why? Because they're employees and they don't understand it. They're employee minded. And you and I, we are entrepreneur minded. That means employee wants to make small, slow money over a long period of time. Entrepreneurs, they want to make big, fast money over a short period of time, 5 years, not 50 years. And for an employee, if you heard me teach this before, they are security oriented. They don't like to lose. They don't like to fail. They don't like to risk. Whereas an entrepreneur, they don't like to risk either, but they are more prone to take risks. Therefore, because they're more prone, they're going to fail more. But ultimately, entrepreneurs, they have this sense of this drive, this persistence, this willingness to keep trying over and over again until they finally figure it out. And that's one of the reasons why entrepreneurs are much more wealthy. Most employee-minded people will fail once and quit. Most entrepreneur-minded people will fail 7 or 8, 10 times before they even think about quitting. And unfortunately, they have to live with people who are in an employee-minded state. And therefore, they keep looking at us as entrepreneurs, realizing that we're very rare. We're only 1 in 7 in this country, or usually in North America, 1 in 7 is an entrepreneur. 6 in 7 are employee-minded people. And therefore, when we interact with employee-minded people and we share with them our mindset, which is radically different, they don't understand us. They mock us. They challenge us. They tell us to quit. They tell us to go get a job. Well, that's the last thing we want, is a job. And so you have shown up here to learn about the systems for creating wealth in your life. Now, wealth is one area of your life that's important, but not as important as your family or your relationship with God, your health, your marriage, your, people, love. All those things are vastly more important than money. You can get through life with very little money. But a few people are inspired or motivated by money, and entrepreneurs are. And this is just the way we think. It's just the way we're cast. It's the way our DNA works. And we see opportunities everywhere. And most employee-minded people, they don't see opportunities like we see them. And they go, what are you talking about? And you go, well, look, if you were able to take this one widget and you were able to change and make it smaller and market it in this way, that you can make a fortune. And most employee-minded people, they don't think like that. They don't think like the boss. You are the boss. You're the leader. You're the one who creates the jobs that employees will use. Therefore, even your employees are not going to understand the way you think unless you teach them how to think like an entrepreneur. So anyway, that's kind of like the beginning of a conversation that we're going to have over and over again. We resonate with each other. More than likely, you've stumbled onto something. You've been on TikTok. Isn't that crazy? 50,000 people watch a little TikTok thing that I shoot. It's 1 minute long, and it goes viral. You're on Facebook. You're on YouTube. You're on LinkedIn. You're on the 7 different ways of reaching out on social media, and somehow or other you found me. Hello, welcome. Come on in. I want to teach you these fundamental ways of looking at the world. To succeed at anything, you need to be skilled in at least 3 areas of your life. It's the system skills of whatever you choose as an investment. If you want to become good at buying and selling the stock market, like Warren Buffett, he has skills. He has skills of finding those bargains and hanging on to them in the right kind of timing and then selling them at the right time. Those are skills, and you have to learn those skills. He also has a mindset. His mindset is forever. He says, my favorite investment period is forever. When you think about it, hanging on to a strong property, a strong stock, is really a great thing to do. I read the other day that Bill Gates now owns about 2.5–3% of Microsoft. It's worth $20 billion, but his net worth is over $100 billion. But they say that if he hadn't sold a single share of Microsoft, if he hadn't diversified, his net worth would be $300 billion today. So he needed to be talking to Warren Buffett. And actually, they are friends. I don't know how Warren didn't share with him that principle. But bottom line is, you got to focus and you got to build the mindset of a wealthy person. And so then there are people skills you have to learn. So over this last conversation, we talked about the skills of real estate, finding, funding, farming. If you're good at those 3 skills, you're going to be rich. If you're not good at those 3 skills, you're going to fail in real estate. If you don't know how to find good deals, then somebody else is going to grab them out from underneath your nose. You're going to be, talk about FOMO, fear of missing out. You're going to miss out everywhere you look because people, you got to act. And most people are afraid to act. And therefore, their mindset is full of fear. And if you have a fear mindset, then finding is going to be difficult for you because you got to act. You got to buy the property. You got to tie it up. You got to fund it. So last time we went into, or whatever time you've been watching this, a previous episode, if you can look at chronology, we talked about networks and how you build networks and how you find the skills of building a network. I talked about 3 fundamental skills right here. These are the 3. Learn these 3 skills. Be good at these 3 things, and you'll be very good at people. And I said the foundation is trust. And the way you build trust is you be a first giver. Always give. Give first with no expectation of return. Number 2, be a win-win person. I learned that from my mentor, Stephen Covey, many years ago. It's a foundational principle of success in any area. And finally, it was persuasion. How do you persuade people? You're the leader. You see the vision. You call the people to join with you and say, do you want to go here? Let's go. I'm saying that to you. I am your leader in this particular area. I'm saying, I see a vision for me and I see a vision for you. Your life is better. In my mind, I can see it. I can see you living in a better neighborhood, you driving a better car, you being having relationships at work, your health being good, your future is bright. Yeah, life has its problems and its challenges and its ups and downs, but I see a future that's much bigger and brighter than you can see. I know that it's possible for you. You know how I know that? Because I have taught for 50 years of my life. And for those 50 years, I have seen people who had no expectation of being successful succeed right in front of my eyes when I expected them to fail. For example, I'm in Oakland having a seminar, a nothing down seminar. People are there. They've paid it was free. It's a free tuition. And it was a $500 seminar at that time. This was in 1979, 1980, somewhere in that range, long time ago. And a guy comes and he's stuttering so badly, I can't understand him. It's almost embarrassing to listen to him. He's trying so hard to communicate, but because of his stutter, it's embarrassing to him and to me. I can't even listen to it. I'm really embarrassed to take his money, to tell you the truth. Why should I be teaching a person like this? I made a snap judgment, and it was wrong. He sat right next to people who didn't have that physical challenge, and I can bet you that he succeeded more than probably anyone in that audience today, where I expected so much lower expectation from him. But he came back at another seminar I taught. It was, I don't know, 6 months later, and he shows up and he still has the same problem. He can't talk. But he says, I now own, I can't remember the number. It was like 6 or 7 properties that he now owned, that he had been able to buy with little or no money with that physical challenge. And so when I tell you that I know that you could succeed regardless of where you're starting, with little or no money, with physical challenges that hold you back, maybe even some issues about your mindset. I mean, I know you can fix that. And I've seen it happen. I've seen people going from living as a homeless person in the middle of a park in Tokyo and being a multimillionaire today after reading one of my books. A guy from Indonesia finds a copy of my book. My book isn't even sold in Indonesia. And he tries to find me. He comes to America trying to find me and can't find me. So he goes back to Indonesia and he just says, okay, I'm just going to have to do it by myself. And he does it. He creates a fortune for himself. And eventually, when I go to Singapore, he shows up at an audience that I'm speaking at in Singapore. And he says, I changed my life. My life is better. I came from nothing. And I could go on for an hour with stories like that. I'm trying to tell you, whatever you are using as an excuse to slow you down, it's a lie. You're lying to yourself when you're giving yourself any excuse for the success you want. Any excuse. You can succeed. I know this. Period. End of story. Believe me. Trust me. If we were to meet together and I were to look you in the eye, you and me, I would shake your hand and I would tell you the same thing I'm telling you right now, eye to eye. You have a great future ahead of you. You can accomplish great things as long as you follow the principles I'm trying to teach you about being an honest, ethical, win-win, giving person. Those principles seem to be outdated today. You read the newspapers, you watch the media, you think that it's only the people who take their fortunes are the ones who get it. No, takers get taken. Don't be a taker, be a giver. Givers get, period. Givers get. So, how do you persuade? How do you persuade? And who do you persuade? Let's first of all, before we get to exactly what you do to get people to believe you and to lend you money, sell you properties that you have no qualifications to buy, talking to bankers, talking to partners, all that persuasion stuff, who do you want to persuade? Well, you want to persuade the right person. And obviously, we start with persuasion when we go to the 1% to 3% of people in a real estate market who are desperate to sell. Those people we call highly motivated sellers. And therefore, when you find a highly motivated seller, they are in a persuasion mindset. They actually don't even look as closely at your financial circumstances as they would look at you being a savior to solving their problem. And therefore, just showing up at the right time with the right seller in the right circumstances is persuasive because they want to sell to you. They want to actually be more persuaded by you. They want to help you succeed. And only 1% to 3% of the sellers in any marketplace are like that. The rest of the people, they want to take. They want to get as much as they can get, as fast as they can get it, and the realtor has prepped them for that. The person who listed the property probably told them that their property was worth more than they thought, could be sold faster than they thought. All they need to do is pay a 6% commission. And therefore, they've been ruined for real estate investors, really. A real estate investor wants to get a good deal and wants to buy it 10%, 20%, 30% below the market. They want a wholesale price. And the retail game is retail oriented. They want to teach a seller to go retail. And we want to find wholesale sellers, right? So we have to persuade everybody in the game around us. So it's better to start with a seller who is persuadable, who has circumstances in their life that force them to be more flexible. And therefore, they want the offers that you give them. And sometimes in my life, I had people actually pay me money to take properties off their hands because the properties were just an albatross to them. We're killing them. They didn't want them. Maybe they inherited it for somebody and they had no idea what to do with it. An apartment building that had all kinds of management problems. How do I get rid of this thing? How can I sell it? Well, okay, I'll give you your price, but you got to give me your terms. You got to make it little or no money down to me, and I'll give you whatever price you are asking, whatever, even if it's retail. If the wholesale terms are great, then hey, I'm willing to look at that. So it starts with the seller, and then you're going to go to realtors. You know, a realtor is somebody you have to persuade. Bankers, you have to persuade them. Partners, you have to persuade them. Renters, you have to persuade them. Your spouse, your family, you have to persuade them to join along with you on your vision. You're a leader. Do you see the vision for yourself? Well, the book I wrote about is called The 4 Maps of Happy, Successful People. You can get that on Amazon. Yeah, I think it's $13 or something like that. It teaches 4 fundamental skills. You see that number 4 right there? These are the 4 principles in that book. You don't have to buy it. I will be teaching you these 4 fundamental principles as we go throughout our sessions of trainings. We'll get to that, but ultimately, this mindset about clarity and how to persuade yourself to do this is a very important part of the process. You have to persuade yourself. That's the 4 maps of happy, successful people. So there's a lot of persuasion that's going on in your life. A lot of people who have to buy into what you're selling. And most people, when you have a conversation, there's a buyer and there's a seller. You think about that. Every time you talk to somebody, just think about it in these terms. There's a buyer and there's a seller. A seller is somebody who is saying something. Do you buy it? Maybe they're saying something and you don't buy it. Therefore, there was a buyer, you were the buyer, but you didn't buy. You wouldn't buy it. They were a seller. They were trying to sell, but you wouldn't buy. Therefore, they couldn't persuade you. Why? Because almost instantly, they turned you off. And the same thing happens for you when you're talking to people. You have about a minute, really. Great books on this subject, and I don't have time to go into them, but the bottom line is you have about 30 seconds about setting a priming statement that lets the seller know that you are a win-win person and that you understand what they want. You say, hi, Mr. Seller, realize you're trying to sell. You hopefully have the best price you can get as quick as possible. I get that. Obviously, I'm a buyer, and therefore I want to get my best price too, but I want it to be win-win. I want, ultimately, even if I don't buy, I want you to win. And therefore, just in a very quick, less than 1 minute statement, you've set the foundation. You've made a statement that gets them to think about you in a slightly different way, right? So this happens with everybody you talk to. Everybody around you, there is a buyer and there's a seller. Now, when you're trying to sell, in other words, you're trying to convince or persuade or invite somebody to come into your life, somebody to join onto your team, to look in the same direction toward the vision you see. You want to be wealthy, you have to be a persuader that sells. And I can't tell you how long it took me to learn that lesson. It might seem to you like almost nothing, like in order to be successful, you have to learn how to sell. What? You might think, well, that's obvious. But for me, it was not obvious until I was in maybe my late 40s. I was terrified to sell. I would stand on a stage to teach. I can teach. I can teach. That's my skill. I can't sell. That's a different skill. Totally different skill. To persuade, to invite people to join with you. I can teach, but when I get to the point where I'm going to ask for money, and actually having them make a step towards you, to join with you, to be the leader. Come on, let's go. When I get a person to that stage, to get them to join the team and let's go, usually it's usually going to cost a little bit of money. And even if it doesn't, I have a hard time getting a person to say, let's go. My persuasion abilities were less than stellar. They were not good. Although the first part of my career, I did teach some seminars to get started to do it. I had to force myself to, invite people to buy. I had to force myself to get to that point. In fact, in my speeches, in my teaching, I would go almost to the end, waiting till the last moment where I would drop the bomb and say, this is how much it costs, because I was afraid to get to that spot. And by the time I got to that spot, my whole body language was all messed up. It was like it was tighter and I was more frustrated and I was worried and I was more fearful. And therefore, people, get this, people buy what you're selling. And if you're selling fear, they feel the fear. And they buy that. So you're trying to sell somebody and you're afraid, they're going to buy your fear. It's going to put them in a state of fear. Therefore, they most likely won't take a step towards their dreams because you put them in a fear state. So really, the first person you have to convince is yourself. When you're talking to somebody, you have to negotiate with yourself to give you a little space where you can step outside your comfort zone and be not who you normally are. And most people are normally kind of hesitant. They're a little nervous and they're afraid of being taken by other people and they're afraid of rejection. And they have 5 major fears I've taught you: fear of failure, the fear of embarrassment, the fear of abandonment, the fear of rejection, the fear of success. That spells fears. Those 5 fears are going to get you. And if you are filled with fear, as I was, and I got to the point of me trying to persuade, I put them in a state of fear and they didn't buy. Almost as unconsciously, they said, why should I buy from somebody like him who doesn't even have the balls to ask for the money? And I didn't. And I didn't for a long time. I'd have to hire people and I would teach my heart out. And I would get to the point where I would get ready to ask for the money. And I'd say, and I'll turn this over to Jim, who will share with you how we were going to be working together. And then Jim would end up with a big fee, the commission that I would have to pay these people who were good at that skill. Because some people are just born that way. They're just good at it. Can you learn it? Yes, you can learn it. I learned it, but I was terrified for most of my beginning of my part of my career. And I had to overcome that fear. I did overcome it. I bought a lot of real estate. I did a lot of crazy things, but I did them with trepidation. I had to force myself to go outside my comfort zone, and you're going to have to do the same thing until now persuasion is way inside my comfort zone. I'm not afraid of it at all. I don't care what you think of me. I don't care if you like the way I say things or not. You either do or you don't. If you don't, have a nice day. Go find someone else that you can mentor with. But for the first 20 years of my career, I was terrified of what you thought of me. Why should that even bother me? I don't know. It just did. And it was not fun. I was afraid that you were going to judge me, that you're going to think that I was one of those pushy salespeople guys, that I was the taker. I was afraid that you were going to see things in me that were not there. I was afraid that you would judge me falsely. And therefore, I acted on that fear. If you have that same kind of sickness that I had, please, you might be so fearful that even the thought of not being fearful is not believable to you. Because you might say, I wouldn't dare ask for somebody. That's not who I am. Well, of course, you're in your comfort zone. And everything in your comfort zone is what you have. Are you happy with what you have? Is your life the way you want it to be inside your comfort zone? That's what you earned. That's what your comfort zone, what you invested to get your comfort zone. That's where you are. Everything you've thought has got you to this spot in your life, comfortable or maybe not willing to take risks outside your comfort zone. Is that what you want? Comfort zone is a dangerous place. It's a place because only inside your comfort zone you have very little of what you were destined to achieve. And everything you want is outside your comfort zone. Everything. Just outside of your zone, maybe in a quarter inch outside your comfort zone. You have to go there. That's where the opportunities are. And yeah, it's not fun. At first it's, for some of you, very terrifying. Okay? Get it. Duh. If you don't want to have a better life, then stay inside your comfort zone. I guess that's what I would say to you. I didn't want to stay inside my comfort zone. Therefore, I had to force myself to do things that were very, very uncomfortable to me. They might be comfortable to you. You might not even deal with it at all. So maybe I'm only talking to a small percentage of the people who are watching now. Maybe you are one of them. If so, I'm talking to you. And if you're afraid of what people think of you, that's expensive. Because, can I tell you the truth? They really don't think about you very much. They really think about themselves. And they think about what you think of them. And once you switch that, flip that switch, where instead of worrying about what they think of you, get them to worry about what you think of them. Now, it seems as if that's an endarkened conversation, like getting them to worry about what you think of them. No, it's actually a method of persuasion, frankly. In other words, you want to give them everything you've got, and you're willing to give them most of it, frankly. But there's about 10% of it that you're going to hold back. And you're only going to give that to somebody who enters your inner circle. That's the secret stuff. That's the things you only hold out because they haven't earned the right for you to teach it to them. How do they earn the right? Whatever you have taught them so far, they did it. They responded. They liked it. They spent time. They invested the time to learn it. And then the 10%, that's the behind the wall, behind the secret curtain. You know, you don't give everything. You do hold back some things. You just do. You do that because you want them to earn it, to spend, to risk to get it. And most people won't risk to get it. Therefore, they never get it. I risked to get it. I went to seminar after seminar after seminar. I've read book after book after book. I invested hundreds of hours, probably 10,000 hours, to be sitting here where I'm talking to you. I've paid the price. And the mistakes I've made because I wouldn't do some of the things that I'm going to be teaching you, because I made mistakes that I shouldn't have made, that I don't want you to make, it cost me millions of real dollars of loss. And therefore, I paid the price, big time. So for you, when you're conversing with people, you're going to be a giver, be a win-win person. You're going to persuade, because you want to at least persuade somebody that they've got a better life. You want to persuade them and help them see a better world. Don't you? Don't you want to do that to the people around you? Your family, your friends, people you meet. Don't you want them to leave your presence feeling as if their life counts? And that I read a statistic just yesterday that they did a study of teenagers between like 16 and 25, young people, and asked them, what's your view of the future? And that over half of them said that there was no hope for the future. That I can't remember the exact word they used, but they believed that the world was coming to an end. It was going to be over, probably in their lifetime. This is ridiculous. Yes, the world has its challenges, and this survey was about climate change, and the young ones are absolutely terrified about the future. This is not where you need to be. For your future, your micro future, is so bright, it's dazzling. The macro future for you, you may be living in a world that has its challenges and that may be deteriorating. Yes, it may. But when you think about the society that we have created over the last 100 years, the way people used to live in the year 1900, their lifespan was 50, 46. Now it's 75 or more. That the diseases that have been eradicated, that we can fly anywhere we want. We've got the internet that has exploded the opportunities, and half of the young people that live today feel that there's no hope in the future. Is this not absolutely disastrous? I'm infuriated by that, because every single person has a better future. Absolutely, and so do you. So, I'm going off on tangents here. What I want to tell you is that the concept of persuasion it's a long conversation. It's going to take me more. I discovered as a result of this, it's going to take me more time to get through. But what I'm trying to teach you is that I am your mentor because I know what it's like to have fear hold me back and it took me decades to get over it. I didn't even know I needed to get over it because I was so lost and blinded by my own fear. When the blinders come off you and the fear melts away, you start to see opportunities you had never seen before because you never thought you could do them before, because you were always blinded and hesitant to take action on them. So there's a book I would recommend you do read. It's one of the books that changed my life. It's called Influence by Dr. Robert Cialdini, Cialdini. He's from Arizona. Fantastic book. I'm sure it's sold millions by now. It was given to me in 1989. I know exactly when I got it and who gave it to me, and it changed my life, period. I began to see the whole world about persuasion in a totally different way. I began to realize that the 6 principles that he talks about in influence are fundamental principles that if I use those principles, it doesn't matter how good or bad I am. It doesn't matter how persuasive I am. It doesn't matter whether I'm filled with fear. Frankly, if I use the principles are so powerful that they overpower any objection that people throw at you. So I'll just throw the name of that book out there and let you know that you're going to be reading and putting into your library some books that I will tell you exactly what to buy. When I tell you that, you go get them and you read them, period, because they'll change your life. If you're not a good reader, get over it. Listen to it. Put it on your iPad, your iPhone, or whatever you listen to it at. Have somebody else read it to you. Whatever you need to do to get that information in your soul, just do it. And the one book that I give away is the book, The Challenge. The Challenge is the systems of how you make money in real estate, teaching the mindset that I taught the unemployed people from the St. Louis, Missouri unemployment lines who had no job, no cash, no credit, no nothing. And I taught them for 2 days. Probably what I'm teaching you here right now. I've definitely refined what I taught them a few decades ago. And I've learned so much since. Oh my gosh. But that system is timeless. the book, The Challenge. You click on this link up here and you go get it. Period. End of story. Read it. Listen to it. I'm going to give you also Think and Grow Rich. Read it. Listen to it. I recorded. I'm going to give you the video. I'll give you the audio. I'm sorry. Put these in your library. What is your library? How many books do you have in your library? You know, my library is right here. These are all the greatest minds that have ever lived. And I want to read their stories. I want to read Napoleon. I want to read about Genghis Khan. I want to read about Churchill. I want to read about, I read these books. They're in my library because I want the greatest minds to inspire and motivate me. So as we learn together, I'm going to be sharing with you books that I recommend you get. And obviously, I want you to get my books, but I'm not asking you to go to Amazon and buy them. I'm giving you one right now, The Challenge. I'm giving you Think and Grow Rich. Fill your library up. If you want to get a copy of Multiple Streams of Income, you can go buy that if you want to. But more than likely, I'll be teaching you everything you need to know right here. You're awesome. I've talked enough. I wish you well. Good luck. And we'll continue our conversation about people skills, probably a few sessions down the road. Next time, I want to teach you about networking and how do you find the money to buy the deals that you are going to find. How do you network? How do you do that? Well, it's a people skill, obviously. It's how do you persuade people to trust you. How do you build a network? Who do you persuade? And we've talked today a little bit about how. I want to talk about who. See ya on the next session. Click on the link. Get that book. Bye-bye.